We reconvene for Liberty Conspiracy live here on Rumble and on X. Good to have you along for the ride, fellow conspirators, the place where Monday through Friday we get together to plot and plan and crouch and conspire for greater days of freedom ahead. The days of the writing in the sky when the light of liberty shines down upon us and perhaps it is red like the Russian propaganda they say we spread. And we break apart the news of the day to derive long-standing intellectual ammunition from that news to pass on the principles of liberty, the golden rule, to our friends, our progeny, and each other. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I hope your day was absolutely beautiful. Here in Moscow, Hampshire, it's getting slightly warmer, so it's been delightful. The sun was out, the birds were chirping, and got a lot of wonderful communications from people today. It's been a very busy day, and we're going to have a very busy next half hour because tonight is going to be a different night. I'm going to be pulled away for some important things to do with our Free State Project connections here. And so I will be leaving at about 6:30. And so for this half hour, I want to devote attention to one topic and one guest. And that topic is the immigration police state. And that guest is Jacob Hornberger, who's standing by with us. And we're going to be chatting with him. And of course, if you want to get your questions or answers in, just head on over to X at Guard Goldsmith, where we were streaming, or go on into, you got it, Rumble. The fruit stripe colors of Rumble are waiting for you, and you can check out all of the good people there. Tomorrow we'll be back with a full show, I think. We'll check on the schedule, and I hope you'll spread the word about the show. Right now, let's get into the Liberty Conspiracy Mind Meld with our guest, the president and founder of the Future of Freedom Foundation. As you can see, the Russians are pressing the buttons. I'm not pressing the buttons at all. It's not me in any way whatsoever. It's time to open things up with our Mind Meld with Jacob Hornberger.
I must try to mind meld with it.
Eternity ends.
Our minds are merging, Doctor. Our minds are one. I feel what you feel. I know what you know.
All right, Jacob Hornberger is our guest, and I salute you, Jacob. We got to chat a couple minutes before we started the show, and I am appreciative of the fact that I'm getting the warm vibes from you down south. Thanks for joining us, Jacob. I've been really anticipating this opportunity to chat with you. I know it's only a half hour right now, but you've released a terrific pamphlet on the immigration police state and freedom of association. And of course, you've been watching what's been going on in various states and just the general principle of immigration for so long. Thanks for joining us, Jacob. I greatly appreciate it. Oh, hold on just a minute. We've got to unzap you. Hold on just a minute, Jacob. I forgot. We've got you. There we go. Now we're all set.
God, for a minute, I thought you were President Trump silencing me.
It's like Get Smart, the cone of silence, right?
It's an honor and a pleasure always to be with you, Guard.
Thank you very much, Jacob. And I kept thinking of you as I saw various stories come up on various insults to the concept of freedom of association, the principles they tell us that will be enshrined in the Constitution to protect our rights, and of course, the ways that they infringe on these things without due process, without habeas, invading states contrary to Article 4, Section 4, without any invite from the governor or the legislature. So many of these systematic things that they break down, they disregard, and they come up with flimsy excuses all the way to the Speaker of the House today, coming up with these rationales and justifications that I know you and I have had great conversations about these things, and you've been driven to publish a pamphlet about this, a primer that people can get on Amazon. And now that release mixes in with the past couple of weeks with the extermination of Renee Good and the murder of Alex Preddy. And I am interested in getting your thoughts about the way that those murders took place, the way that those murders were committed by the so-called justice system here. But why don't you just start off with any of your reactions over the past few days and what has been most on your mind, Jacob Hornberger? And of course, we'll mention they can find the Future of Freedom Foundation at fff.org.
Well, and they can, your viewers can find my book, The Case for Open Borders, a primer, on Amazon. Very inexpensive, $1 for the Kindle version, $4 for the print version. I've made it as cheap as Amazon will let you make it, because it's important that this idea that I've been promoting now for 36 years at the Future of Freedom Foundation be understood, because I've emphasized, Guard, over and over again, there is one solution to this morass, and that's open borders. There's no other solution. And I've always said that this police state along the border, which I experienced, I was born and raised on the border, on a farm on the Rio Grande. I've had experience with the Border Patrol. I've had personal experience with this police state down there. And I've always said, this thing's going to expand. The Berlin Wall that Trump built is not enough. All of the trespasses and the checkpoints and the boarding of Greyhound buses and the criminalization of hiring immigrants is never going to be limited to the border. It's never going to work. And so we're seeing this. So when I see them killing now American citizens who are protesting against this, for one thing, I say, wow, where have y'all been? We were living like that under the border. People in the borderlands have been living like they have in Minneapolis all my life. This is how we live down there.
Yes, and you described in, I think maybe one of the first opportunities we had to chat, I was filling in for David Knight, and you talked about when you were growing up there and the change that you saw on your own farm with the guys you would play softball or baseball with. And then one day they just came, they took away your friends, which goes to the heart of it all. And then, of course, we have all of the ways that they continually try to conflate and mix up their so-called rules, saying, well, we have a warrant. That's not a real warrant. There are so many things I'd like to discuss with you. And if it's possible, Jacob, I'd like to sort of look at this as a funnel for my questions. May I ask you, yesterday I put out a little couple paragraph outline on the way they try to distinguish between administrative warrants and the warrants that are actually required by the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. And I didn't even go into the fact that the word immigration is not in the U.S. Constitution. I didn't talk about Chi Lung last night. I don't think I brought up Chi Lung. I just said, look, this is what they're telling you. This is what a warrant actually is. And Judge Napolitano spoke about it today with Aaron Mate on Judge Napolitano's program about how they try to claim that these administrative warrants, and this is what Judge Hannah Duggan had to deal with in Wisconsin, why she could go to jail for 5 years because she said, this is not a real warrant. Could you explain to people how they try to get around? And now they're saying they can go into people's homes without a judge-issued warrant now. We're at that position now. They might as well be wearing brown and have jackboots on. In fact, a lot of them do wear brown and have jackboots on.
Well, as you alluded to early on, when we were growing up on our farm, the Border Patrol could come onto our farm without a search warrant, search the entire farm. Now, interestingly enough, they never came into our home, but there's no question in my mind that they had the authority to. Because if they could come onto our farm and search without a warrant, why not the buildings on our farm? Right. Yeah. And so that's when they would bust our workers. We would hire illegal immigrants. They were the hardest working people I've ever seen. Well, that's their dream of every government, to be able to search anybody's home, anybody's property without going through the hassle of going to a judge and showing probable cause. This is what our ancestors knew. This is why they enacted those amendments, that they knew that government officials would get to this point. And so they wanted to make it clear that's not going to happen here in this country. So these administrative warrants, they're just a cover for just going in and searching people's homes without a warrant. It provides them with the aura of legitimacy. But really, they might as well just barge in it like they did on our farm. If we put a lock on our gate, they would shoot off the lock if we hadn't given them a key. That's the authority that they have, by the way, not just on the border, on farms and ranches, but 100 miles away from every border in the United States. But that's the authority they want in Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, LA, San Francisco. They want that general authority to enter into anybody's homes. The same thing that King George wanted or had, and that the colonists rebelled against.
And it's amazing too, because you can see this this monetary feedback loop, the same way that they established the military bases in various states, and it's been virtually impossible to close down the bases because people say, well, there are thousands of jobs at these bases. Now, through FEMA, they want to incentivize the building of new detention centers for human beings who haven't done anything harmful to anybody else. The aggressors are the agents of the state who are receiving ill-gotten goods from my tax money and then going out buying weapons and then telling me I can't walk the streets that I've got to pay for with my own weapon. For goodness sake, it's just so perverse. So now they're going to be buying up warehouses. You probably saw that story too, where they're going to be buying warehouses. And it's another grift, another graft to say to governors, well, if your economy isn't doing so well, we've got $500 million waiting for various states if you'll just build a new detention center. It's amazing. And what really strikes me is that people have an opportunity, I think, Jacob, to look at this and map it out and say, oh, wait a minute. That's right. The Constitution, even if, as you know, as a voluntarist, I know that I didn't give my agreement to the Constitution. There were people 250 years ago who signed a piece of paper to say, we're going to create a government in perpetuity where slots can be filled, but we'll put these barriers up that it can't go any further. And if they think it should go further, we'll have an amendment process. Functionally, I understand it. Ethically and morally, I don't agree with it. I agree with Lysander Spooner. But I think it's important. Maybe this is a key time, and maybe it's a healthy opportunity for people to say, oh, yeah, I've read that Fourth Amendment, and an executive branch is not the branch that has judges in it. So how can the executive branch issue a warrant? It's not possible.
No, and they're going to be biased always for the government. I mean, especially when you appoint the people who will be issuing the warrant, they're just hacks. And so it creates that aura of legitimacy. But this is what I've been saying, that as long as you have this socialist system of immigration controls, I've been saying this for 36 years, that you're going to have a police state. And along the border, how come there's no big protests along the border? I mean, people have been killed there by the military. There's people dying in the backs of 18-wheelers, drowning in the Rio Grande. Why? And there's highway checkpoints where people get beat up if they don't roll down their window and show identification. Well, why are the protests there? And it's because people on the border have become meek and submissive, that when you live under tyranny, you finally just come to accept it, and you believe it's freedom. You see, most people along the border are like most Americans. They honestly think they live in a free society. So the people in Minneapolis, they're stunned. They're shocked. Well, people on the border are not shocked at all. They've seen this all their lives. But my point has always been, a police state comes with this system. You cannot separate out the two any more than you can separate out thunder from lightning. If you support lightning, you're going to get the thunder with it, like it or not.
Oh, that's well said. And I want to also compliment you and Richard Ebeling for the way you have covered this. In fact, on the screen, I'd like to show a number of things. As I showed before, there's the book, The Case for Open Borders. And I want to read a little bit from the blurb there. But also, Jacob, I saved on my tabs a number of the pieces that you have published. And then you also cited one from Sheldon Richmond, who had a terrific one a few days ago. Our immigration police state, and you're probably one of the few that I know who's been calling it the immigration police state. I've been repeatedly trying to, put that out there. You've got this one, The Problem Is Not ICE, and you describe how it goes much deeper into history and philosophically than ICE itself and its creation. Our expanding immigration controlled tyranny. And these are part of an education for anybody at this time. And I'm sorry, I skipped over. That's my James Bovard one. I got to go back to my Sheldon Richmond one. But it is really something else to see how so many people have become accustomed to this happening to them, as you say, that they don't even really question the fundamentals. And one of the things that gets me, Jacob, is that you mentioned it's a collectivist system. And to me, I try to stress to people that any collectivist system is going to see everybody arguing and cause dissension within that system. When people are forcibly put into a collective, then, as I mentioned to you when we spoke last time, there's no way anyone can know whether a political so-called border is where anybody wants it, because just like anything else the state does, the people who are voting for it aren't using their own money. It's not just their volition. They're forcing other people to pay. Those other people aren't allowed to express their values the way they could through a marketplace with private property. So we don't know whether they really want the wall there, how high they want the wall, how they want the wall policed, if they want the policing to go 100 miles into a state, if they want the police to be armed or not armed or wearing khaki or pink or whatever. None of us knows any of that stuff because they're doing it under duress or they'll go to jail. The politicians don't care. And the only place we can find out what people want for a border is on their own property. And then we respect that. And if we respect that they should have their own property in land, we have to respect the nugget of that, which is that they have a property in themselves. And it's not my right to take anything away from their lives or their livelihoods.
Well, that's right. I mean, it was like, our farm. It was our farm. If we wanted to hire foreigners, that's our right. It's now that doesn't mean that the adjoining farmer has to do that. He can say, "I'm going to hire only Americans." Fine.
Sure.
And then, but you've got also just fundamental rights. We're going to celebrate the Declaration of Independence this year, the 250th anniversary, and we need to do some serious soul searching and reflecting on the words there. Because the real significance of the Declaration was not the war that took place between the British subjects, and they were British, they were not Americans. They were fighting against their own government.
Yeah.
The real significance is those words that every human being, every man, every woman has been endowed with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And once you accept that and you absorb it, and you say, my gosh, the pursuit of happiness, that's what people are doing when they're crossing borders. They're pursuing happiness.
Jacob, I think about how you've told this, you've given people a window, an arc of time from being your childhood experience to where you are now as an attorney and what you did when you worked in Texas, some of our conversations in the past, some of the things you and Richard Ebeling have discussed at the Libertarian Angle over on YouTube and over at FFF. And it's very interesting for me to think about some of these people who lived at that time and sacrificed so much, not just to have a nation state separate from Britain, but to try to instill within this new creation something better that would recognize natural rights better than what the king was doing. And you're one of these people who has sacrificed so much in your life for principles that, I think about these people who literally sacrificed their own heartbeats, Nathan Hale and others during that time period. And to think that you have been able to work so hard in this and that you've produced this at this time, as you know, as we've been discussing in the back channels, I've been working on something I want to release on immigration too. And I've been thinking about putting it out for a long time. And I think many of us recognize it's really come to this, that we have a police state. Of course, all states technically have to be backed up by some policing force. So they are technically police states. But now the very promises that they've given us are so flagrantly ripped apart. I'd like to show a legal representative, as I mentioned to you in email. This is an attorney from Minnesota who described to people not only what she is seeing in an ICE facility, but what she's hearing about other clients who are being shipped all over the place. Is it okay if we play that, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, great. Okay. I'm just going to pull your microphone down briefly so we guard against echo on this system just in case. And here you go, everybody. Now, this is something you'll see inside the news notes for Liberty Conspiracy. And every day, Jacob, I put together, the Russian team and I put together a series of news notes. And we often go to that over at my Substack and hit links and so on. So this is one of the items that's linked over there. Here we go. As you'll see here, it says this immigration attorney is confirming everything that we've been hearing about how ICE agents are keeping all the immigrants' money, jewelry, social security cards, work visas, and any other documentation they had on them when detained. They're also dumping them in parks alone. Now, here is what she has to say.
What's happening here today?
Just basically, it's total chaos. It's total chaos. I'm an immigration attorney, and the people who are being detained are being denied access to their lawyers. We used to prepare people for times like this, and we said, memorize our numbers so you can call us. They don't even get phone calls. Half the time, people can't even determine where their loved one is. And they're sending most people to Camp East Montana in El Paso, Fort Bliss. It's disgusting. Multiple people have died there, and they're sending everybody now who's apprehended. They're sending them to Camp East Montana.
Right.
And then what does that mean for their chances of getting out? And this is a habeas petition that was granted, and they can't find the woman. That is the trouble. That is the trouble. They don't know where she is.
Right. And I've also heard reports of detainees being released without their cell phones and without...
That is a big problem too. And then a lot of people earn money in cash, and they're carrying large sums of money. And when they get detained, who gets that money?
Right. And their IDs have gone missing from what I've heard as well.
When they release people, they won't give back their work permit or their social.
That's what I'm hearing as well.
And do you know how hard it is to replace a work permit? Months.
Yep.
Yeah. So that this operation is illegal on so many levels that it's hard to fathom. And the people who claim to be lawyers who are working for them, they have to quit their jobs. And that's why you've seen multiple people. A law clerk at the immigration court left because she can't handle it anymore. You have to keep your ethics at the center of what you do all the time. That's really all I have to say.
Absolutely.
And these people are operating with no moral center. They have a hatred toward other people. And that's why they can so easily kill Renee. Did you see when that happened? Bop, bop, bop. She got killed. He didn't care, and then he called her a fucking bitch.
No accountability. No accountability.
No
accountability.
That, but he's being protected. And that is what is happening right now.
So I'm going to pause it there, Jacob, and go to another tab just to show you this one. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it. I'll go over here and find it in my stream here real quick. The woman who was shot 5 times just outside of Chicago, she testified today about, and they played a recording. I'll find it later. They played a recording. Here we go. This is part of the hearing. They held a 3-minute and 26-second moment of silence as one of the congressmen asked for that. That's how long they waited before they tried to help her. But in addition to that, we've got Marimar Martinez. As I continued to drive past the Border Patrol agents, I could hear my back passenger window shatter. I began to feel lightheaded. I looked down and noticed blood gushing out of my arms and legs. I realized I'd been shot multiple times. Then we have Robert Garcia, congressman, reading text messages of an agent bragging about shooting her. And I'm sure you remember those things. I shot 5 times, but there were 7 holes. Remember that? Just unbelievable, Jacob. It's a very, very dark time, but it's a time to learn. I know it might sound pat, but it is a time to learn.
Oh, it really is. I mean, you just hope that this is a catalyst for a great awakening. I've been fantasizing about that for a long time. I mean, look, when the drug war is part and parcel of the whole immigration control syndrome, and over there in the Caribbean, notice that they're just killing people. I mean, who are suspected, not even, an indictment against people, but even that wouldn't justify a killing. They have the power, the omnipotent power to kill people. And so whether they're in the Caribbean or Minneapolis or wherever, any federal official that kills another human being, whether it's over there or here, is going to get away with it. And if that's not enough to cause Americans to say, my gosh, is that really the country our founders established? Well, it isn't. It's a totalitarian like society. But I think people are going along with this notion, this self-delusion and a lie that we live in a free society, a pledge allegiance for liberty and justice for all. And hopefully there's some awakening taking place here, Card.
Oh, gee, Jacob, it really is it's a strange time to be sentimentally talking to a person I've admired so much and finding we're still on the same side of things at such a time of friction. And I don't want to be overly dramatic about it, but I think about how rushed everything is. This news is coming at us. And I really want to stress, if people get the opportunity to take the time to read your 50-page pamphlet, I want to head on over there and show this again, The Case for Open Borders, because you mentioned it's very important that people understand the drug war was the lead-in for a lot of this stuff. The prohibition of people engaging in free market commerce is part of the nugget of this. And if they can say that they can prevent the free market of trading of things, then they say that means they can block freedom of association in other ways, like this, like you can't work together, you can't cross the borders. And again, I'll try to explain to people just briefly, if they think that we are off base, if they think that we're utopian, talking about how, there should be freedom of association, the first step I would ask them is, again, if you are a person who votes, folks, then please think about the offices and stations you are filling. What document do you say provides for those stations? The Constitution. Has it been amended to allow the United States government to handle immigration? Not naturalization, two completely different things. No, it has not. It came from a Supreme Court decision in 1875. That's where it came from. They didn't even refer to any of the text of the Constitution. You can read Cheelong v. Freeman and see for yourself. They made it up. And ever since that time, it has been a giant hot potato that people have been shuffling around, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse. And Jacob, if I can, I just want to read this. As Jacob Hornberger details in this introductory primer, there is one and only one solution to this border morass. That solution is open borders, genuine open borders. Now, let me ask you a question, Jacob. What do you say to some libertarians who say you can't have open borders and a welfare state at the same time?
Well, it's just untrue. We have open borders here in the United States and a welfare state. Anybody from Mississippi is free to travel across borders to California, where the welfare benefits are much higher. There's an easy solution to the welfare problem, and that's just abolish it. Or in the case of foreigners, all you have to do is enact legislation saying if you come here, you will not be entitled to welfare. That's a much more humane position than a gigantic immigration police state, Berlin Wall, people getting shot and dying and in the backs of 18-wheelers. And so you have this huge monstrosity because you're concerned about them going on welfare. And ultimately, Guard, what we're really talking about is an increase of taxes. That's what really people are worried about. They come to get on welfare, my taxes are going to go up to pay for the welfare. Well, the fact is that most immigrants don't come for welfare. If you're welfare minded, you're not going to pull up stakes and leave family, friends, language, culture. You're weak, emotionally speaking. The people that come here are the ones that want to get rich. And you don't get rich on welfare. So if you look at let's say 97%, I'm just making that up, that are working and producing wealth, it far outbalances any increase in taxes for the 3% that are coming to get on welfare.
I remember, Jacob, reading about El Paso, and someone did a study maybe 15 years ago about how if they had no illegal immigrants there, the economy of El Paso would collapse. And you see so many other industries that rely, and this is extremely important as well. This argument that, well, Americans would do these jobs. We hear this from the Center for Immigration Studies all the time. I did an article, I can't even remember how long ago it was, for Fee. I think Sheldon was editing at that time. And it was about the immigration police state and about how Mark Krikorian wanted to have big barriers. And he was describing for business people how they would change their businesses to, well, you could pair off some jobs and then you could get new technology that would replace it. Like, why should they have to invest in the new technology and increase their burdens for their factors of production when they can get inexpensive labor? Why don't I tell you what, why don't we continue to employ all those people? And then what we'll do is we'll cut an arm off of everybody so they have to hire one more person. How about that? Would that be wise? It's just Frederick Bastiat is rolling in his grave. They don't seem to understand this stuff. It's crazy.
No, they really don't. And I'll tell you a real life story. My dad, periodically, when they would bust our workers who were illegal, I said they were the hardest working people, and they were our buddies. They lived with us there on the farm. My brothers and I were in high school and junior high, and we'd play football and work out in the fields with them. My dad would periodically have to go to the unemployment people when they'd bust our workers, and I said, well, why don't you just hire them permanently? And my dad said, because they're the laziest people you ever find in life.
Right. And I used to see that when I worked at the farm stand. You know, I wasn't full on farm, but I worked at the farm stand and be out in the fields. And the Jamaican guys worked like crazy. And of course, some of the teenage kids that was there, I remember one of them, it was impossible, impossible. But it was a stark difference. And, regardless, I don't want to stand in somebody's way. And Jacob, I know we're out of time, and I would love to have you back next week. If you be free, we'll have more time. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about these things and show some people examples on the screen of areas where they can investigate, to look at the Chilong decision, to look at some of the figures from history who've been so heroic on various subjects and try to follow in their footsteps, if that's possible.
I would love it. I mean, if you and I could get this conversation going about immigration and open borders and get people just to be thinking and say, why are these guys so convinced? Right. I think we will have accomplished a tremendous thing. I mean, right now we're a small group, but I believe we're the right ones. And with sometimes a giant oak can start with just a little acorn.
I like that. It popped into my head. You're the ethical anchor, and now you've got the acorn. That's perfect. We'll leave it at that. Jacob Hornberger, FFF.org. The Case for Open Borders. Get it at Amazon, and follow Jacob at Future of Freedom on X. Jacob, thank you.
Thank you, Guard.
You got it. All my best to everyone in your family. Tell Richard I say hello and thank him as well for the opportunities to write for Freeman. I cherish those days. Those are great days. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thank you, Guard.
Thanks. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go now too, everybody. So I'll leave you with this. And I will be back tomorrow, maybe to do a midday show. Maybe have some of that change the format a little bit. I would love to look at some of your comments, but I do have to fly. Unfortunately, gonna have to go. Got some Free State Project stuff that I've got to do. So I'm going to go with the Liberty Conspiracy outro, and we'll talk to you in the news notes tomorrow.